Sup guys, how we doing, and welcome back to another YouTube video. So a completely different video for me today. I'm actually going to take you through my leg workout, which is hamstring focused. So whilst I was injured and I hurt my rotator cuff, I was actually doing 3 leg days a week. But now I'm back to doing upper body training, which means my leg days are now back to 2 days a week. So the first one in the session, which is this one, that's hamstrings. And then the second one later in the week is more quad focused. That being said, I'm still going to target every single lower body movement, just put a little bit more emphasis on the hamstrings. So going into my first exercise, lying hamstring curl, really big fan of this movement. I definitely prefer a higher intensity approach. I spoke on my Instagram recently that I prefer that rather than higher volume, which means 2 sets on most exercises. So lying hamstring curl, the most important thing with this as well, to kind of keep your bum down as much as possible as you kind of contract your hamstrings and bringing the weight back up towards your glutes. Your bum is going to come up a little bit. It's so important on this one as well. It's not to try and bring your neck too much up. You really want that kind of linear, neutral spine rather than kind of putting too much pressure on your upper back. This is just my second set here. This is a higher rep set, so 12 to 15 reps. I'm not going to shoot every single rep, but exactly the same as kind of my top set, that same control and squeeze at the top of the movement. Something that I've been introduced before I go into squats is doing a hamstring movement, and I really kind of prefer this training approach, starting with the lying hamstring and then moving on to my squat. So next up we have squats, and this is when I kind of put my knee sleeves on. I never used to use knee sleeves, but it's something that I've really kind of included in my training and I really recommend. So before I squat, I'm just bringing my elbows forwards. This is just how I kind of prefer to squat. I've never been the biggest fan of squats. I've never actually been able to do them that well. It's a movement that I'm still, even though I'm not necessarily a beginner, I'm still learning the basics as such. I had so many years of poor form. As here you can see, just change my camera angle around just so you can see the kind of depth. You don't need to go kind of arse to grass, but you still need that depth to put all the emphasis onto the quads. So first working set, 4 to 6 reps, and I actually prefer this sort of first exercise of the squats than I did in my warm-up. I actually prefer when there's more on the bar. Don't know why, but when I kind of warm up with much less weight, I don't find that I'm moving exactly the same way. I'm not sure if you're the same when you squat. So I managed to get 6 here, and this was 115 kilos. So nothing impressive, but I've just kind of stripped everything down and trying to put a bit more emphasis on my glutes. It's something that I've always neglected. My squat form was horrendous back in the day, so this is my first set. So just before you squat as well, if you just want to take a deep breath in and then keep that breath in the whole way down, and then deep breath out as you go up to the top of the movement. Some people like doing it at the top, some people like doing it throughout, as long as whatever works best for yourself. On to the third movement, Romanian deadlifts. I used to do this with the bar a lot, but I much prefer the dumbbells. I just feel this better on my hamstrings, so much more. Just control that weight down. The one problem with dumbbells as well is your grip. As you can kind of see, it looks like it's slipping out of my hand, and it actually is. Just control that weight down and kind of try and push your bum back as far as possible, but keeping a straight back. So this is my first set, and this was 8 to 10, and I think I just about got 8. And yeah, rather than picking them off the ground, put them on the bench, makes it a little bit more easier. As I was saying here, kind of pushing your sort of hips back, but keeping your back as straight as possible, and really kind of keep your chin tucked in. If you kind of look up at all, you kind of will put, again, straining your neck, and it's not quite a straight line. This just puts more emphasis on kind of your hamstrings and keeping all the tension in there. You don't need knee sleeves for this. I was just kind of too lazy to take them off because I'm going to use them for my next movement in a minute. Don't hesitate to kind of get good depth on this one, and just try and take any kind of lower back pain as possible. Sort of start really low, make sure you can feel it in the hamstrings, and build it from there. So next up we have the Smith machine split, and this is actually a split lunge rather than a split squat. This is a new movement that I've put in recently. I'm going to keep this in for my mesocycle, so the next kind of sort of 7 to 10 weeks, and see how I get on with it. I'm including a top set and a back off set on this one, so of the 8 to 10 rep range, so I'm not going to do the same weight. This is actually my top set. I think I've got 20 on each side, nice controlled, a few second eccentric as you come down and try and explode as much as possible. Because it's an isolation movement, and I actually prefer just having a bit of a rest before going into the next, to the other side. Some people go straight into it, which is fine, but I always like to get my breath back and then executing the movement. Make sure at the top you don't stay at the top for too long. Keep all the tension in your glutes and your quads, and just kind of power through. This one makes you feel a bit sick. It's kind of got a love-hate relationship with this one. And just kind of control that movement and keep all the tension in there. Onto a leg extension, and it's so important on this one not to kind of just like shank the weight up as fast as possible and kind of get as many reps out as best you can. You really kind of, just like any other movement, you want to control that weight. You got to think, what are you working here? Okay, I'm working my quads. Where do I want the tension to be in my quads? Just because you do like sort of 20 to 30 reps and you can feel a bit of the burn on your quads doesn't actually mean you're working them. Just want to control that weight as much as possible and just keep the tension in there. So this is my first set. This is 8 to 10. This was actually supposed to be a single leg extension. Accented both, but I kind of just ran with it. I much prefer kind of pointed toes. I know other people prefer it kind of pointing them away from you. I actually prefer pointing them up. Just find that I get a better mindset to muscle connection with that. Onto my second set, same rep range again, just taking the weight down. So this is my back off set, and this one I actually include a rest pause, which you'll see in a second. So I'll do my rep range. So on this one I think I got sort of 10, maybe pushed to 12 reps. And then I'm going to rest for 10 seconds, and I'm going to get as many reps as possible. Rest for 10 seconds again, and then as many reps as possible. With a rest pause set, if you can kind of do like 10 reps on here, rest for 10 seconds, get another 10 at the same weight, and then rest and another 10, then you're perhaps not quite working hard enough. And in the nicest possible way, I mean as in you can put the weight up so much more. Because on here you'll see I think I only get kind of 2 lots of 4 reps, just because my quads feel so fatigued on this. Just speeding up a little bit, because if you put everything into that first set, it's going to be so hard to get anything else onto the next one. So just keep that in mind if you want to do a kind of rest pause set, and that's the leg extension. So onto my final hamstring movement, the standing hamstring curl. I'm a big fan of this movement purely because I feel like it isolates the hamstrings really, really well. Better than kind of like a lying hamstring curl or a seated hamstring curl, even though I include those movements. Try and keep your upper body fixed as much as possible, and again, just like a lying hamstring curl, try not to bring your bum up too much, and just keep all that tension in the hamstring. So this is my top set, which is 8 to 10 reps, and then I'll do exactly the same on the right leg as well. Then I'm just going to take the weights down, and I'm going to do exactly the same amount of reps on the other side. And then after this I finished off the calves, which I didn't record because I didn't want to embarrass myself too much. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video guys, and I'll see you in the next one.